Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. So this is my full review of the Soundstream Reserve / PPI Harley Davidson head unit. Okay, so the part number for the head unit is HDHU14 plus. So the unit did really well. I didn't expect it to. For the past few years, Soundstream and PPI and Epsilon brand have been synonymous with high volume, low quality, entry level, something you would put in your beater car, nothing you would put in your good car audio. COVID had forced us to be more open-minded because the supply chains have depleted all available. We literally have not been able to get radios for about a year. So it's been hard to get any radio, never mind the radios that we normally use. So it's forced us to look at lesser brands that we would normally not touch. For Boss Audio, we've tried some of the Boss Elite units because they were just available, and they've been solid. So it looks like a lot of these companies, including PPI and Soundstream Reserve, have split their company into two parts, where the entry-level moving boxes, something for people that don't want to spend a lot of money, but then they have their secondary brand, like Boss has Elite. PPI and Soundstream Reserve is a much higher quality than the regular stuff. So I was talking to Chris Brinkley, and he was trying to convince me that that was the case, and I just didn't believe him. I was giving him a hard time because I refuse to believe that they re-engineered this radio completely from the ground up and put new audio components and a better deck and a better amplifier. I just didn't believe that a company would invest money on completely rebuilding a radio when they could just take a $200 radio off the shelf, weatherproof it, make it the shape of a Harley radio, and sell it. They would make more money that way. So Chris and I went back and forth over Knowledge Fest, and he was guaranteeing me that that's what they did. Chris is sales rep. I respect Chris, but he's not an engineer. He's a sales rep. So I was like, how much could this guy possibly know about what went into? So they actually blackballed me and didn't want me to get the head unit. So Ronnie reached out to all my distributors to make sure that they didn't put one in my hands because he thought I was going to bash the product and give it a negative review without giving the product a fair shot. So a couple of weeks went by, and he reached out to me, and we had a discussion, and I explained to him that his company has such a bad reputation that it's really hard for me to believe that anything that they print on the literature or the box. He guaranteed me that I was going to be wrong, that he wanted me to give the radio a fair shot, and I promised him that I would. All my reviews are fair. I honestly don't care what you people buy, what you guys buy out there. I'm just putting the information out. You make your decisions. There's certain things that we use at our shop because we have a certain sound and a certain way we install, and there's certain products that fit that need. What other shops do or what clients decide to do is really has nothing to do with me. My job is to put the information out there, and then you choose what works for you. So it didn't matter to me whether this radio tested well or didn't. There's a need for it in the market, and even if my shop chooses not to carry it, doesn't mean that it doesn't fit the needs of other shops. That has nothing to do with me. My job is to put the correct information out there. So there was a lot of speculation before the radio was released, whether it was going to work with this or whether it was going to work with that. I have understanding of basic electronic principles, and I knew for a fact that there was a lot of stuff that wasn't going to work that has nothing to do with the quality of the radio. I knew for a fact that this radio, since it was using an external module to turn on and to do steering wheel handlebar controls, that there was no way it was going to work with boom audio. So that's a mistake on the box. The box says that it would work in a CVO motorcycle. It will not work on CVOs. Not yet. There's a second version of the radio coming out. But it will not work on CVOs because the radio does not have the ability to turn on the amplifiers via CAN. So there's just certain things that I knew wouldn't work, and I tested it and I was right. But that's not saying that it's not a good solid head unit. So honestly, I didn't expect much from the head unit. I expected CarPlay to work decent. I expected Android Auto to work decent. I expected the audio part of the radio to be crappy. It was not. So I tested the radio, and I literally ran the test on the RCAs 8 times because I couldn't believe the voltage that was coming out of the RCAs. This radio did really, really well, and I was able to get 2.2 volts out of the RCA, which is more than triple what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be less than 1 volt. This radio puts out more output in the RCAs than most Pioneer radios do. The signal is rock solid. Radio goes up to 50. We had no distortion or clipping, up to 45. So radio gave us good, clean, solid power. I was surprised. That's why I didn't do the review yesterday, because the radio did so well that I wanted to come in this morning, reset, and give it a fair shot now that I expected it to fail, and that's what it is. So my review's over, and the audio quality is crap. Well, since it didn't do that, I had to redo all my tests and then come in with an open mind and give it a fair shot, just like I was testing any other good and solid name brand head unit, and run it through its paces without quickly going over the numbers and give it a full, thorough review, and that's what I did. And the radio did really, really well. I was talking to Ronnie, and part of the release ended up being pure luck, the timing of the release of this radio, and this is why. Currently, the GTS radio, which is the radio that comes in the 19, 20, 21, and 22 Harley Davidsons, is king of the hill. In my opinion, it is the best radio available. Factory fit and finish. You get to keep all your factory features. You don't lose anything. You flash the radio, the EQ is flat. You can build a great audio system off the factory radio. You get to keep all your factory features. You get to keep the WIM, CB module, get CarPlay, Android Auto, thumb controls, weatherproof, can get wet. You can build, we do 90% of the bikes we do, we keep the stock radio. But the radio's not available. It's been on back order for Harley for almost a year now. Even on the forums, it's dried up. I used to buy them used on the forums. Nobody's giving these radios up. Everybody's looking for one. So the radio, when it's all said and done with shipping, is around $2,000. And even if you're willing to pay, you can't get it. Sony, which is the current king of the hill for aftermarket radio on Harley Davidsons, just because they fit. One misconception about the Sony is people think it's weatherproof. It is not. I'm a Sony dealer. I've been a Sony dealer for a long time. I love the Sony 7000. We sell a lot of them, but we do not sell them for Harleys. We sell them for Jeep Wranglers, Polaris Slingshots. We use them a lot in cars. The only negative thing about the Sony for us in cars is it currently does not have support for iData-Link Maestro, but it soon will. Some of the other head units in the line already have it. But as far as features, reliability, Sony by far, hands down, has the best warranty. So you buy it from an authorized dealer, you get 3-year warranty on the Sony. The people are saying that the Sony is weatherproof or weather resistant. It is not. If you go on Sony's website and read the official paperwork for Sony, the buttons are sealed from dust and debris. That's the only thing they mention, and people are taking that and running and saying that the radio is weatherproof. The radio has openings in the chat. I've made videos about this. You can go back and check my video where the Sony radio versus the GT or the GTS radio. The Sony radio does not belong on a Harley, in my opinion. It is a great sounding radio. It has an excellent DAC. It has excellent sound quality. It has a ton of voltage out of the RCAs. It is a great radio. I don't think it's a great radio for a Harley. Harley's designed where if the bike gets wet, it's no big deal. Everything will still work. The Sony radio is not designed for that. So you get away with it because it's more weather resistant than some of the other radios on the market. But nowhere on Sony's website does it say that the Sony radio is weatherproof or waterproof or water resistant. they say that the buttons on the face are sealed from dust and debris. That's not what damages the radio. Water getting between the radio body and the screen damages the radio. Water traveling down the fairing going into the body of the radio damages the radio. We have at least 7 or 8 water damaged Sony radios here, and that's not the radio's fault. It's not designed to get wet. So you could put a cover on it, you could do this, you could do that, but in my opinion, this is a good solution. So it has plenty of output like the Sony does. So that's the problem with just going by the numbers and just measuring the numbers. If you go by the numbers and the fact that the radio has RCAs, people think that it's the be-all, end-all solution for every Harley. It is not as good as the GTS radio. But in this application, in my opinion, it is better than the Sony 7000. Just because it has really good outputs from the RCA, it's weatherproof, it's designed for the Harley with no adapters needed. Everything comes with it in the box and it just automatically works. And if you get it wet, it won't get destroyed. It's just as weatherproof as the factory GT or GTS radio. So the reason I say the timing is perfect is the radio that I feel is a better solution, which is the GTS, is double the money. So if you don't have $2,000 in your budget, then the GTS radio is not for you. So it comes in at half the price. So it doesn't have all the features, but it definitely has enough features to make it a great value, in my opinion. So it's more weatherproof than the Sony. It's just as weatherproof as a GTS. It's more expensive than the Sony, but less expensive than the GTS. So in my opinion, not counting audio sound competitions, it would be the GTS radio at $2,000, the Soundstream Reserve radio at $1,000, and then the Sony radio at $600 or $700. So according to their price point is also the way that I would rate them and the way that I would recommend them for a Harley. Now, if you're strictly doing audio competition and your bike is a trailer queen and it will never get wet, and you don't care that you can't see the radio in direct sunlight, then I guess Sony is the radio for you, because even though both radios have really good output from the RCAs voltage-wise, I did some critical listening and I listened to the two radios side by side, and in my opinion, because it's just opinion, because according to the numbers, technically the AC waveform is the same or similar enough. It's just the amplitude of the waveform is just a little bit bigger on the Sony. I think the Sony sounds better. And it's not just a Sony versus Soundstream thing. It's a Sony versus everybody else thing. I've been a Sony dealer for years, and many cars that we've switched from a different brand to Sony, with everything else being the same, the car just sounds better. So from a sound perspective, if you're looking for the purest reproduction of sound, I have to give, so let's say we're going for the purest reproduction of sound, I'd have to say the Sony radio #1, then I would give the GTS flashed and the Soundstream radio, I would rate them a tie. I think that would be fair. So pure sound-wise, uncolored sound, sound quality, audio competition, Sony #1, GTS radio and Soundstream radio tied for #2. Now that being said, I'm talking like a 5 to 10% difference. I'm talking something that for a normal person, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And I won't even use the term pure audiophile, because a pure audiophile would never listen to a motorcycle. So that's my opinion. That's the way I feel. But that's the way I'm going to promote it and sell in my shop, where GTS radio, $2,000, be all, end all, flash it, add a DSP, perfect solution for everything. One step below that, $1,000, Soundstream Reserve, solid radio, add a DSP, make it sound the way that you want, weatherproof. You lose a few features, but all the main stuff on the bike still works. And then the bottom solution for us would be the Sony radio, not weatherproof, gives you CarPlay, Android Auto, can't see in direct sunlight, good sounding radio. Okay, so let's start with the numbers. So we found a maximum unclipped output at volume 45 out of 50, running a 1 kilohertz test tone through the USB. Speakers, on the speaker outputs, we got 7.5 volts AC RMS. On the RCA, we got 2.2 volts AC RMS. Over Bluetooth, we had a drop in output, and I was talking to Ronnie, the reason this is because they felt most people who use this radio would be using CarPlay and Android Auto through USB, so they had the signal stronger, and it would make more sense because it's going directly from the phone into the digital analog converter of the radio. So over Bluetooth, you're streaming, so there's going to be a little loss. So the speaker output voltage went from 7.5 to 4.9 at the same volume 45. The RCA output dropped from 2.2 volts to 1.2. On the GTS radio over USB, we had a solid 2 volts output if the radio's flashed. If the radio's flashed with a Harley Boom Audio or Sounds Flash, it drops the speaker level to RCA level, flattens out the EQ, and 2 volts is the most you get out of it, and that's all you need. On the Sony radio, we didn't test the speaker outputs, we only tested RCA. With USB input, we're at 3.5 volts AC. So that's what I got going by the numbers. If you see behind me, somebody asked me, I asked in my YouTube video yesterday what features they want to test it, and somebody brought up a good point. They asked me if wireless CarPlay would work if we added the wireless dongle that's available. This is a ZZ2 interface that I got from Rich, and yes, it works. So a wireless USB dongle connected into the USB, and I will show you. I'm going to search on screen on my phone. And there it is in the mapping software. There we go. I closed it on the screen, and it closed on the screen. So yes, wireless CarPlay works if you use the wireless USB adapter. The unit does not have built-in wireless CarPlay. Your phone has to be plugged in. But if you use a wireless adapter like the one we got from ZZ2, wireless CarPlay works on this unit, and it works well. I've had it hooked up for about an hour. It hasn't disconnected. If you watch my previous video about wireless CarPlay, I am not a big fan of wireless CarPlay because it does lag and connect and disconnect, but some people like it. My phone is connected to the unit wirelessly right now. So yes, wireless CarPlay works if you use a third-party external adapter. Okay, so now comparing the head units, the pros and cons. The Soundstream radio will not work with your headset. In order to work with the headset, you need a WIM or wireless interface module. That works over CAN bus, and that can only work with the GT or the GTS radio. So no, your wireless headset will not work. But a pro, you can use Siri voice control because the unit comes with a microphone. Now, the thing is, comes with a microphone. I don't care what you tell me, the wind noise is going to be crazy and it's going to be useless for Bluetooth phone calls. But the reason I would keep the microphone installed is you can talk to Siri and do voice control with the microphone. So I think it's useless for phone calls, but I would plug the microphone in and keep it hidden in by the windshield, because talking to Siri, I think, is useful. When you stop at a red light, hey Siri, what are directions here? Hey Siri, play this song. I think it's useful, and that's a feature that I do like. Yes, the touchscreen works with gloves on. You do not have to remove your gloves. We've tested it. It does not work with the WIM module. It will not turn on Boom Audio amplifiers. So if your bike is Boom Audio equipped, it will not work. If you have the Rockford setup, not the Rockford by Harley, the Rockford Fosgate setup, not the new 2021 Harley Davidson audio powered by Rockford, that's a new version of Boom. It will not work with that yet. Version 2 of the radio should. But you have no TPMS. For some clients, I had somebody reach out to me, the ability to not control the EITMS, that's the engine idle temperature management system, is a deal breaker for them. This is a feature that's built into the bike that you control through the factory radio that allows you to have the bike run cooler if you're stuck in traffic. This is a feature you can toggle on or off, but you can only do it if the bike still has the factory radio in it. If you do an aftermarket radio, Metra makes an adapter that allows you to retain the feature, but Metra solution is only for aftermarket single DIN screens because they want the little screen to mount under the single DIN radio. So if that feature is important to you and you want to try the Soundstream radio, you can use the Metra adapter. Part number is 99-9700. But you'll have to find somewhere to hide the screen, probably the glove box. That way you can keep your EITMS system active, and it'll also give you oil pressure. But you will lose oil pressure display, you will lose your check engine code display, you will lose your TPMS if you switch to this radio or any aftermarket radio. This includes the Sony. These are features you lose by going with any aftermarket radio and taking off the Harley radio. Things I like about the GTS radio is with the WIM module, you have voice control over Siri, but unless you have the jumper or it's hacked in the software, CarPlay and Android Auto only work if you're connected over Bluetooth with your helmet headset. With the Soundstream and the Sony radios, you just plug in your USB and it works. The unit's proven to be solid. We have not had one defective GTS radio yet. We've been installing them for years. The GTS radio, I love the factory feature where if you're low on gas, and especially if you're out of town, because if you're in a different state, you don't know where the local gas stations are. If you're in your state, you know where all the local gas stations are. So if you're riding cross country, you're out of state, and your fuel light comes on, I think it's a great feature that will automatically pop up on the screen and show you where the closest gas stations are. This is not a feature that you can maintain with any aftermarket radio, with the Sony or with the Soundstream. Same thing with check engine. If you get a check engine light while you're riding on the factory GT or GCS radio, it'll direct you to your closest Harley Davidson dealer. These things might be a deal breaker for some really don't care. Juan, for example, doesn't care about CarPlay, doesn't care about Android Auto. He wants to upgrade his GT radio to the Soundstream radio only for the faster boot time. It takes 1.5 to 2 minutes before you can start listening to Bluetooth music on the GT radio. On the Soundstream, it takes about 30 seconds. Pros about the Sony. Great sound quality. You can fit more amplifiers in the fairing with the Sony because the body of the radio is shorter. But you lose a bunch of factory functions. It's not weatherproof, and it doesn't look factory. Something that they need to add to the Soundstream radio, the difference in volume between Bluetooth and USB is a lot. It's literally double. So the reason this is a big deal to me, higher end head units have a source level matching. So if you only listen to one source, then it's no big deal. If you toggle back and forth between USB and Bluetooth, you can blow your speakers if you have a powerful system, because it's a difference of actually double the voltage. You're going from 1 volt to 2 volts. So if you have your radio turned up to almost the max and you're listening to Bluetooth, then you switch to USB, you're literally sending double the power to your speakers, and you can blow your speakers. So be careful if you're going to be switching. If you go with the Soundstream radio and you're going to be switching between sources, be careful because it's a huge difference in volume between USB and Bluetooth. They need a better install manual. There's a lot of features that I had to figure out on my own that are not explained in the manual. just like they make, or they used to make. I was talking to Ronnie, he's saying it's going to be standard now. But the steering wheel control interface is actually a separate part from the radio harness. You can literally plug this radio in. If you don't get the harness and plug the radio in, the radio will not turn on. You actually have to wire the accessory wire and run a jumper to the cigarette lighter, to the purple and blue wire on the cigarette lighter, to get the radio to power on if you don't get the harness and the module. So we order, for every radio that we ordered a harness with it and a module. And if you use the harness and the module and plug it in, you don't have to do anything. The radio automatically turns on. So in Jay's video for Volunteer Audio, I caught a mistake because he had been given the wrong information. He was told that if you plug the unit in without the handlebar control module, you will get limited buttons that work on the handlebars. Not true. The radios can bus. The motorcycles can bust. The radio is resistive. If you do not get the module, none of the hand controls will work. So make sure when you order the radio, you're getting the harness and the module. I'm pretty sure that in the second shipment, you're not going to have the option. It's just automatically going to come with it, and they're just going to include it in the price. It should list it on the box that you need this accessory to make it work. The box lists that this radio is compatible with the CVO. That is a mistake. This unit is not currently compatible with the CVO because it cannot turn on the boom audio amplifiers, and it will not work with the WIM. So the second version of the radio should have all these features. We got clean signal to volume 45 out of 50. We disabled the built-in EQ because it's something for somebody else to talk about in another video. We use the DSP on every single one of our motorcycle audio installs, so I didn't want to explore the EQ functions. So they're building a radio that has all these features. So they added CarPlay, they added RCAs, they added an amplifier, they added speaker wire outputs, they added all these features. So there wasn't a lot of money left over to build a high quality EQ. And the unit doesn't even have high pass filters. So that's something that they have to add in the software. So without high pass filters and the amount of voltage this radio produces, you're gonna blow speakers, in my opinion. This radio, they definitely need to add a high pass filter. I talked to Ronnie, he says they're going to be adding it in a software upgrade, which is great. But in my opinion, every single radio, every single install needs a DSP. So if you want to hear about the EQ functions, you'll have to wait for a review from another company because that's something we're not going to test. We had a bike that was stock, and even though the RMS output of this radio is listed as less than the factory Harley RMS output, the output was just a little bit louder with this radio. I didn't get the official numbers, I just quickly listened to it. So we plugged in the stock radio, factory EQ, not flash, and we plugged in this radio, and this radio was a little bit louder. Being that neither radio had a crossover, at high volumes the front speakers would distort. Okay, I've had a lot of people ask if you have to flash the radio to get it to work with different. There is no flashing of this radio. This is an aftermarket radio. Installing this radio is just like installing the Sony radio. There is no flashing. The radio is automatically flat. It's not going to work with boom, so if you have a regular 2 or 4 speaker bike with no amplifier from factory, you just plug the radio in and it works. There is no flashing. There is no need to flash the radio. There's nothing to do. You just put it in. This radio installs just like the Sony radio. One thing I did like, there is no programming of the steering wheel controls. So there is no flashing LEDs. You literally just put the harness together and plug it into the bike and the radio turns on and the handlebar controls work. There is no programming. This radio only has wired CarPlay. It does not have wireless CarPlay, but you can add one of the universal adapters available from all third-party companies, and it's working right there in the background. Okay, somebody asked an excellent question. They asked me if the unit will have video playback over USB, just like the Sony. The unit does not. I was talking to Ronnie. He added MP4 video capability, and because legal told him he had to remove it. And it makes sense. The reason you can watch video on a Sony is because that is a radio designed for a car. That radio has an emergency brake input. So you're supposed to hook it up with the emergency brake. If the person that buys the radio chooses to bypass this feature and just ground out the wire or use a TR4 or a TR1 to override this feature, then, I'm sorry, I meant TR7 or TR1. So they have taken upon themselves, and the legal ramification falls on them, not on the builder of the radio, because the customer did something to override the safety feature. The problem with adding video to this radio is Harley Davidson does not have an emergency brake. So there is no way to ensure that video only comes on when the bike is parked. So it's a feature that they could not add legally. So the radio had the ability to play video from USB, it had the ability to play MP4. They had to remove it so they wouldn't get in trouble. So no, the unit does not play video. It's a legal thing. It's not a feature thing. And I think I've covered everything. This video is going to be long. I'm sorry, but there was $1,000 is a lot of money. So I wanted to make sure I was thorough with the review and went over all the features. And yes, we are now officially a dealer for the radio. We have a bunch of units coming in. The last thing I wanted to do was pick up another line for 2022 because I like having only a handful of lines. That way I can spend all my money with just a handful of companies. That way I'm important to each one of these companies. I don't want to have 20 or 30 lines and spend a bit of money with each one, because then they ignore me because I'm a nobody to them. I want to spend a lot of money with just a few companies. That way when I need something and I make a recommendation or a request, they listen to me. But after testing this radio, there was no way I could not become a dealer. So it's not the be-all, end-all piece, but is a solution that came in at a time where A, it has good solid functions, B, there's no radios available on the market. It's super hard to get a Sony 7000 right now. It's impossible to get a GTS radio right now. So it came in at a perfect time where we have a problem getting radios. This is a good, solid solution that I can put my name and reputation on and not worry about it. It comes with a solid warranty. It comes with 2 years warranty as long as you buy it from an authorized dealer. I've put the radio through its paces. I got it wet. I tested it with an amplifier. I tested it with no amplifier. I've left it hooked up for an entire day playing music. We used it as a shop radio today. And the radio's performed really, really well. It performed as well as I could expect any $1,000 radio to perform. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to test it. Thank you for caring about your clients and building a really good product. And hope this helps. Check out the rest of the video. You guys know I like to test stuff. I think that's a fair amount of water. All right, let's plug it in. No issues. Great job, Soundstream. You guys wanted to know if it worked with gloves on. No problem. Actually works really good. So yes, works with gloves on. Okay, the radios perform according to their price point. So the number one, in my opinion, is the GTS factory radio that comes in the 2019 through 2021 Harley Davidson factory, but it's $2,000. Second place, I give to the Soundstream Reserve. It's $1,000. Third place, I give to the Sony 7000, and it is $600. All three radios performed really well, and they each have a strong point. But right now, we're just looking at the display brightness. These two are equal. Sony's a little less bright, which is funny because if you put the Sony up against any of the car radios out there, the Sony display completely demolishes them. But these two have a brighter, higher resolution display. Now, everybody wanted to see the direct sunlight test, how these radios perform in direct sunlight. We already know the Sony does not do well. The GTS radio does really well. So we wanted to see how this one did. I wanted to do the test outside, but there was no way I could have all three radios on at the same time. We just didn't have time to take three bikes apart. So we had to do it on the bench, along with all these other GTS radios that were flashing. So this bench was already set up for this. So Gio's holding our snap-on LED light to simulate the sun. So now the test that everybody's been waiting for. We'll do the GTS radio first. I can still see it. Now the Sony radio. Oh, can't see a thing. Now the Soundstream radio. Not as good as the GTS, but still usable. Okay, we're gonna use Juan's bike because it already has a system installed in it. So it's got a DSP, GT radio. Fairing's already off. It's gonna be a simple swap, and I couldn't think of a more fair comparison to a bike that's already tuned and done. The radio's flat, so we're literally gonna pull this radio out, put the other radio in, and show you how the bike sounds. The bike literally sounds 95% the same, swapping the radio, because both radios have a flat output. So if you want to judge the sound quality, I couldn't think of a more fair test to show you than a bike that's already done and sounding good. So I'm going to let you listen to this radio, and then we're going to put the Soundstream radio in and let you listen to that radio. So that way you compare the sound of both radios. Okay, now the Soundstream radio.
Do you remember?
Okay, so the bike sounds really good with both radios. So it's not a sound quality thing. I'll get into that later in my video. But GT versus the Soundstream Reserve, really good output on both, really good sound quality. And to make the test fair, no RCAs hooked up. We went speaker level from the Soundstream, the same way that we went speaker level from the GTS. Just a big radio plug, same thing we use on the GT. No RCAs. We're going speaker level into the DSP, so the test is nice and even. Speaker level on the Soundstream versus speaker level on the GT. Okay, I'm gonna do the swap in real time so you can see that it is a true plug and play. We have the GT radio still in the factory equation, still hooked up. We're going speaker level into the DSP, so we're literally disconnecting the plug here and hooking it up into the Soundstream plug. So here's the Soundstream harness, and the factory GT radio is still hooked up and playing. I'm gonna swap it while it's on to show you how quick and easy it is. Okay, the radio just lost power. There's the plug. So there is no additional programming. We're literally just going to plug the Soundstream radio in. Handlebar controls will automatically work. That's it. Soundstream radio is hooked up. Now the radio boots up so fast, we should have music in under 10 seconds. We're still on the load screen. It just powered up for the first time. There's music. Home. Bluetooth. That's it. Connected. It's connected to my phone. And there it is. It started playing. So that is a major reason why Juan wants to switch the radio. He doesn't care about Android Auto, doesn't care about CarPlay. He hates the fact that it takes like 2 minutes for the GT radio to boot up and start playing music. So you saw that music started playing in under 10 seconds. It could have been faster because you got to remember, since I disconnected power from the radio, it had to do a full boot and had me select the language. So I'm going to shut the ignition off and show you how fast it really boots up without me unplugging power, because we connected and started playing music really fast, and that's with the radio booting up from zero. It had zero power. We plugged it in. It asked me what language. Then I had to hit OK. Then the radio finally turned on, and it still connected quickly. So now it's connected. I'm going to cycle the ignition off, give it a few seconds, let it power down. I want to see how long it takes to reconnect to my phone. Ignition's off, radio's off. Okay, it's enough time for it to go to sleep. So now I'm going to turn the ignition on. Just connected to my phone. "29 seconds, playing music." Okay, so we went from turning on to playing music, 29 seconds. Now let's measure the GT radio and see how long it takes. I know it's way over a minute. Now we're only talking about Bluetooth, because I know FM kicks on quicker, but nobody listens to FM. So I only listen to Bluetooth on my bike or plug it in for CarPlay. So I want to see, we're going to measure exactly how long the GT radio takes to boot up and play Bluetooth from my phone. Okay, plugging it back in. All right, we're plugged up. Radio's on, but we have no music yet. We have static from FM, but we still can't even pick our station yet. All right. Bluetooth menu still not available. We're at 32 seconds. $42 seconds, still not available. Okay, so we're at 52 seconds. We're at 1 minute. Minute and 11 seconds. Okay, minute and 15 seconds before we can hear music.